Welcome back. Afriforum Youth has added its voice to calls for the Basic Education Laws Amendment Bill to be scrapped. The bill passed in October last year and proposes, among other things, that provincial education departments be given the power to decide on school language policies. Now, Afriforum Youth says the bill is an indirect attack on Afrikaans. Let's discuss this further. We're joined now by its spokesperson, Louis Boschoff. Louis, it's great to talk to you. Thanks very much indeed for coming on to 405. The Basic Education Department has dismissed that picket at the union buildings that happened yesterday by Afriforum Youth. They've called it a meaningless picket. But what was it about?
Good afternoon, Michelle, and to our viewers as well. So we were picketing against the Bella Bill, and what makes our picket or our opposition to the Bella Bill unique is that most Afriforum Youth members are young Afrikaans-speaking people who have, until recently or even are still experiencing the benefits of mother language education in Afrikaans. So it's really people closely involved with Afrikaans mother language learning, not people looking at this from a distance and saying, viewing it as a political issue, but high school children and students who are some receiving Afrikaans mother language education and realizing there's this looming danger in the form of the Bella Bill, and we want to oppose that.
Do you agree, Louis, that all school-going children should have access to any school, to attend any school?
Well, we would say do what is reasonably possible. So, unfortunately, in South Africa, we have an issue with overcrowded schools and schools not available even to some children. But there's a balance of rights and freedoms involved in such issues. So we wouldn't make a blanket statement on let any child arrive at any school whatsoever, but rather approach it from the angle of making school education and especially mother language education available to as many as possible children and to as many as possible cultural and language communities.
But it's about leveling the playing field, isn't it? This is at least the statement from the Basic Education Department spokesperson, Elijah Mplanga, who says it ultimately is about leveling the playing field, which is something, as we know, we still struggle as a country, as the most divided and economically separate, the most unequal, that's the term I'm looking for, the most unequal country in the world. Leveling the playing field is something that we are still miles behind on. And this goes some way in addressing that.
Yes, but unfortunately, we can't judge a bill on the intentions of the bill. We simply have to look at the text of the bill and ask what is possible from this bill. And with almost all human rights issues, such as the right to mother language education or freedom of speech in your mother language, one doesn't have to suppose that it's most probable that the right will be infringed upon, but rather say the laws should be passed to keep into account the side possibility or the small possibility that rights will be infringed upon and making sure that's not possible. So with the Bella Bill, as it is written at the moment, it is possible to close down Afrikaans schools or to stop schools from offering an Afrikaans option as language of instruction, and we do not want that to be possible, even if the intentions of the bill are good.
You say that you can't say that the bill is good because there exists the small possibility that would happen, but you also at the same time say that this would effectively, and I'm reading from your statement now, it would mean extreme assimilation and the destruction of a group's cultural heritage and history. How much of a possibility do you think that would be if indeed the bill is passed?
Well, if we look at what we've seen from officials from the Department of Education in recent years, the most prominent example would be Panyaza Lesufi, who was previously the Gauteng Department MEC for Education, and a political figure who's really outspoken against Afrikaans and characterizing Afrikaans as the language of the oppressor and such, and it really creates the expectation that if similar figures are in power deciding on schools' language policies, there will be politically motivated decisions against Afrikaans schooling.
Yeah, but the question I'm asking you is, on the one hand you say we can't accept this bill, and you can tell me if I'm interpreting you incorrectly, but on the one hand I'm hearing you say you can't accept this bill just because there is a possibility that it might work towards leveling the playing field. And I'm asking you, how can you then reject the bill on the basis that there would be this, quote, destruction of a group's cultural heritage and history? Because how do you measure either one of those things? The destruction of an entire group's cultural identity and the leveling of the playing field.
Well, let me answer you in this way. We believe by amending the bill, sending it back to the National Assembly and asking for specific amendments, removing the clauses that are sensitive or specifically pertaining to schools' governing bodies and provincial education departments' powers, by making the necessary amendments, both can be achieved. It can be the current parts of the bill that actually are necessary and will have good effects can remain in place without leaving the possibility for infringement of rights of mother language groups.
Louis Boschoff, let me thank you for your time this afternoon.